those of you who know me, you have to leave now. My name is Patrick Meyer. I work at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles. And I think we have, between Bill Jack and myself, and Bill Jack is from William Mitchell, I think we have a really well-rounded presentation for you on teaching the free websites. And primarily, I'm going to start with kind of like what's out there and how I go about choosing them, and then I'm going to get into specifically how I incorporate the free websites at Loyola Law School. And Bill, the reason why we're so complimentary is I do all of my incorporation in full semester classes, and he does all of his incorporation in what you might call brown bags and other offerings like that up to this point. And I just wanted to let you know where I'm coming from and, you know, kind of the perspective that I have. Oh, sure, there are probably better ways to do things than I do it. However, over the past 6 years or so, I've done an awful lot of teaching as far as the librarians go, and I've taught maybe about 15, close to 15 courses, almost all in full semester, in the last probably 5 or 6 years. And as we speak, I'm teaching. Sort of, okay. And so currently we lawyer librarians teach our 400 1Ls each year, each fall semester, in the required legal research component of research and writing. And then I teach an upper level elective. I taught in the spring, I'm teaching in the summer. I committed to next spring. And that one is primarily electronic legal research. We'll get into how I incorporate a little bit later. In the past, I developed and taught 2 advanced legal research courses, one dealing exclusively in print and one exclusively electronically. Unfortunately, I just can't give the integration approach enough. I just can't do it in a 2-credit class, and that's all they'll give me. And so I found that I was either doing one well and neglecting the other one, or and also at the same time students weren't paying attention to the print stuff, and so that's really not a reason to drop it. But I just can't do it in 2 credit hours, so I unfortunately have to teach them separately. And so before we get started, as I mentioned before, I'm kind of going to get general, telling you what's out there, kind of the advantages and disadvantages is associated with using the free sites. And then I'm going to get specific. Okay, the first part, yes?
Well, is your PowerPoint available anywhere?
Not yet. I have to give it to him yet, so I suppose.
But it will go up somehow.
I plan on it. I don't know, I don't know why I wouldn't. Famous last words. Yeah, and that's a good point. I don't know if yours is actually on a website at least, so now it's just a matter of getting to CALI. Probably a good idea. We only have an hour, so we're probably going to be going necessarily fast at times. And by the way, even though I have a tendency to talk fast, it's perfectly okay with both of us if you interrupt us at any time. I actually don't care if I get through any of this, because what really matters is if we can try to satisfy your questions, and that's really the main thing. So basically, virtually all federal primary law is available for free on the web, and most state primary law, to the extent that something's not likely to be there, it's the administrative regs. Believe it or not, California only up until like 3 years ago maybe did not have the administrative codes online for free, and finally they're on board, and we're going to be actually looking at that website a little bit later. And of course, even though there are many city ordinances online, we're talking about lots and lots of cities out there, so many city ordinances are out there for free. However, still a small percentage of the cities are represented. And a lot of like back issues of full text law journals. I don't know if a lot of is really the way to describe it. The last I knew, many more were not full text than were full text online. Of course, the threshold issue, most of this is not really new, but the threshold issue is, can I trust these sites? And the first thing that I always say is, I've been doing this, 6 years is not a whole long time, but it is substantial in that I'm seeing these same sites over and over, very few of them that I ever started using are are gone now. And I guess you could say maybe this is a stretch. Longevity equals trust. I say maybe it's a stretch because after all, they are free. I mean, I could see Westlaw and Lexis being on there. You know, the pay services being on there, and you could surely say, well, they're there because people can trust them, and you know, I think you can still say that to a lesser degree, even though it's free. I think a lot of us who put stuff on the website for free just to help people really wouldn't do it if they knew there wasn't an audience. And so I really think that longevity still equals trust out there. The fact of the matter is the ones that I use, many of them are either government websites or education websites. The ones that aren't, FindLaw a few years ago was bought out by Westlaw, so now they've got Westlaw in back of them. Lexis One, of course, is the Lexis free version. And so I think there's a lot out there to trust. And if you're just unsure, well, by all means, verify away before you use it. You can do all your free research, and before you stick it in the brief, just go on Westlaw or Lexis or look it up in the book to see if it really says what you think it said on the website. And so I really don't think, can I trust the free websites is really an issue. But I might add, in our little, what do they call that little preview thing that you have to write out and it comes in the program, we mentioned that with cost becoming such an issue, that you really have to think long and hard before you use some of these legal websites since it is free. And since you can get so much primary law out of it. Some really good websites, the Meta Index at Georgia State University, I've been using that for quite a while. It looks the same as it did 5 years ago, but it still works. And it just index collects a whole bunch of resources. I think there are 3 different Supreme Court search engines, the federal courts of appeal, the CFR is on there. And it's for what it offers, it's just a really good one-stop shop. The the NARA site is pretty good with its CFR, Federal Register, public laws, and so forth. I didn't realize you could see me moving the cursor all over the place. This is the Meta Index. You can either scroll down, it's not a very long page, or of course you can click on one of these sections that I have in the little box there. And for instance, the Supreme Court opinions search section from FindLaw, you can do your citation search, you can do your title search, or you can do your little full text search. So it's as far as legal websites go, it offers a fairly broad means of searching. Now here's the NARA site with all the links on the left-hand side there with the purple background. You see the Federal Register there as well, and I've been using that one again for about as long as I've been teaching these classes, even before when I was doing research in library school at Syracuse. Thomas is a really good site that's been around forever from the Library of Congress, and also the FindLaw. I was using that long before Westlaw bought them out. The FindLaw California, part of that is a really good site. And here's the Thomas screen. I think in a bit we're going to talk about, when I talk about limits to doing your free web search, notice you can search by bill number, which is basically what would be a field search in Westlaw or a segment search in Lexis. And then you can do your very basic word or phrase search. And there's most of the information. FindLaw has a very busy page, and so here's where most of the information here is. Anywhere from legal forms to primary federal law, the state primary law, mainly this is where you would go. And here's some more other notable sites. The Hyros Gamos site is a great commercial site, a site from an organization. Washlaw from my law school alma mater, the Washlaw Web. Washlaw is kind of like the interface is kind of like the GSU Meta Index one. It hasn't changed for a while, but boy, there's a lot of stuff there. It's very helpful. And limited free services from Lexis by way of Lexis One. Paralegals.org has a pretty good compilation of primary and other materials. And Cornell's Legal Information Institute, I've been using that. The one great thing about that is It gives you concise little summaries of areas of law, and it also has links out to the seminal case law and statutes, and I find out that that's a great place to start your research. They have several areas of law there. And so here's the Hyros Gamos. Again, it's way too busy, but if you kind of know where to look here, once you find it, they have over 70 areas of practice. They have a very unique structure, kind of international to national to U.S. to state. It's kind of basically how it goes there. And you also have your current legal news and so on and so forth. And there's the Washlaw one. This goes on. This is about 40% down. And it's just alphabetical, and you can find everything under the sun at the Washlaw site. Simple design, but quite effective. And here's Lexis 1 with its limited amount of primary materials and forms. And you can see down here are the state resources, California, New York, and so on. And here are some of the resources that you can get at theparalegals.org. The homepage for the Legal Information Institute. Probably many of you have seen this one. Over there, the actions over there on the left there, with the red box around it. There are some disadvantages, however. Known secondary materials, CJS, Amjur, forget it. They're not on there for free. They're just not. Like I said, though, there are some full-text past editions of law reviews. And that's about the extent of the free known stuff. There's a lot of stuff, of course, posted by individual attorneys, a ton of that information that you can't really easily verify or wouldn't particularly want to use anyhow. There's obviously no find or locate functions like there is in Westlaw or Lexis to the most part. There are some exceptions to this. There's certainly no free key citing or shepherdizing on there. The digests don't exist for free. There are some exceptions like Google. I like Google a lot because you can, after you do your initial search, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of that second page to the search box, it says search within these results, which is, of course, just like locate or focus in Westlaw and Lexis. And it's very important. I can't stress that enough. On the web, where you have so many pages where it's not uncommon for you to retrieve a million documents from your first search. And it's very common then to search within the results and get it down to 100, 200, 300, which is a lot more manageable. Of course, this is, to most of us, this is pretty obvious. Westlaw and Lexis search engines are quite robust. I've hit on this on some of my prior slides. You just don't have those possibilities on the internet with their search engines, whether you're talking about Google or whether you're talking about the search engines that power the individual legal sites. Some of them are better than others. Some of them offer actually some decent field searching capabilities, but they just can't compare to everything Westlaw and Lexis has on them. Few, if any of them, have proximity limiters. We're going to get into the Boolean, kind of the Boolean thing in a minute or two. Very limited, usually very limited capabilities for Boolean searches, and if they have a full full Boolean abilities, you have to really watch it because sometimes you can only use symbols, for instance, and those symbols might be exactly the opposite. They might mean something else in Westlaw and Lexis. Sometimes you have to use, for instance, and make it in all caps, or else it won't work. Really quirky rules, and this is a constant catch to students trying to use these resources, is doing it wrong and not finding the how-to page like I tell them over and over again. So the Thomas site is, like I said, A1 for what it has on it. You can do a bill number search, which I said before is like a field or segment search. But if you don't know the bill number, then you're kind of stuck with a kind of a very basic keyword search. No real advanced search options there. And so if you don't know the bill number, you're kind of, it may not, the results may not be as concise as you would have liked. Now, I mentioned about the connector issue, the Boolean issue, how it could be different. If it exists at all, it's going to be probably oftentimes different than it is on Westlaw and Lexis. And the first inclination of the student is to go and then just type it in like they would on Westlaw and Lexis and expect it to work. And we're back to the California Administrative Regs site. This is the one that went up, maybe 3 years ago. I'm just guessing. Maybe it's been sooner than that, actually. Maybe it's like only 2.5. I can't exactly remember. It actually has a variety of Boolean operators and proximity limiters. However, look at these. The word stem is the percentage sign. The multiple character wildcard is the single character wildcard, the asterisk in Westlaw and Lexis. Instead, their asterisk is they use the question mark for single character wildcard, whereas Westlaw and Lexis use the asterisk. They have a synonym search though, so you don't have to actually. This is pretty cool, I think. So you can use the $ for that. So you can see it's different. And like I said, the first thing students want to do is not go to that page, just find the search engine and type away, just like they would in Westlaw or Lexis, which of course brings back erroneous results, and then we're wondering what happened, and no, this is hard to use, and I'm kind of picking on this website here, the California Administrative Regulations site. Talk about hard to use, and this is one of the selection criteria. Sometimes you have no choice. If you're going to, for instance, use access free California Administrative Regs, you have to use the site. And here's the screen on the bottom. Well, here's the 3 parts. You have the table of contents, you have the full text of the first document, and then here's the search screen. Look at all those different searches, and you have all those buttons. You have all, search, browse, document, contents, hit list, all of these. It's just a lot for someone to learn right away, and then in combination with learning how to, the different symbols, the fact that they're different than Westlaw and Lexis, they really have to spend a little time before they use this, and it's frankly intimidating to the students at first. Now, specifically, how do I teach? Like I said, there's that first semester course where all the lawyer librarians kind of get the 400 students, we kind of divvy them up depending on how many of us have decided to teach. And so typically that's between 70 and 100 students. And what we do is we have 8 one-hour classes, and we teach all 8 of them for our however many sections we have for all of our students. And, pardon? Didn't I change that? Yeah. How dare you point out a mistake? I'll save you the trouble. There's probably others. Okay. And so mainly we stress print research in the fall, and we have one of the 8 classes strictly electronic. Now, some of that surely will be devoted to the free websites. We really are kind of reworking how much of that we devote to the free websites. Now, we are free to, every one of us is free to show the free websites kind of as we go along in the other 7 hours of classes. And in the past, it's been an issue with the room, but we got a chance to pick the rooms, and so we're having it in 2 of our computer labs, which are large enough to house these classes of 15 or fewer students. And so everyone would have a computer, and we can go on Westlaw, Lexis, and the free sites, and they can go along and follow along. I think it's going to be valuable to the extent that I'm going to actually incorporate the free sites into each class. It kind of really depends. There's not a lot of time the way the structure has been in the past, so we kind of have to play it by ear. And then in the spring semester, they have 4 assignments. The first 2, one in Westlaw and Lexis, are designed to be self-paced, where they didn't have to actually go and do their training first. And then we have 2 hours of training, and then 2 more assignments are due. And that's it for that class. My electronic course is, of course, is almost all electronic. I really try to do a little integration. I just don't have the time, like I said before, to do it justice. And it's a full semester upper level elective. And I would say I use probably 15%, maybe as much as 20% sometimes is devoted to the free sites. I'd say, if I had to guess, 10 to 20%. I focus on cost-effective research, so that's why, one reason why I can justify having such a high percentage of the free sites in there. I asked that my classes be 2 hours each time instead of just 1 hour because I have a series of in-class exercises I have them do almost every class, and they find that it's very valuable. And then I turn right around if I have time in class, and I put up the PowerPoint reviews, and otherwise I do it the next class, and they find that that's also very valuable too, getting that feedback, and they can see it, and then they can go outside of class and look at it at their leisure. And basically I do kind of the topical lecture, you know, federal secondary sources, this is why you use them, this is what they are. You know, the 3 branches of, yes, I go through all of that because I know half of them have forgotten it. Then basically, I find that Lexis is a little kind of tough sometimes to show them where the hierarchy is, so I actually usually show them the hierarchy. Then I have them do their hands-on exercises, and which would include, as possible, the free sites. I limit it at 20, which is probably too many because for such a labor-intensive class. Before, I limited it to 16 where I was, but that was a function of the lab that I had at my prior job. It only had 20 computers in it. I actually have a final exam which has, for the most part, been live in the past. And they get in there, they have 2 hours, give them Westlaw, Lexis, and internet questions. 2 hours are up, they hand it in. And it's ran between 10 and 25% of those questions have been free website questions. I rarely let the students I rarely just give them an issue without telling them what free site to use. There's a few reasons for that. There's a lot of junk out there, and I just don't want them to get caught up in that. We just don't have a lot of time to show them that. I'd rather direct them to the ones that are quite useful in this case. It seems to work out really well. Oh yeah, yes, and we have a pretty tough curve at Loyola, so we know about that tension, the tension that brings. So basically, the selection criteria is really basic. I mean, this is like, we all probably could have wrote this. It does have to have meaningful content because there's so much out there, and not all legal websites are created equal. Ease of use has to be considered, but like I said before, sometimes you can't get around that, like with the California Code of Regulations site, the CCR site that I showed you. And the complexity of the search engines, operators, and connectors comes into play too. If it's too complex, what's going to happen is they're going to get their searches wrong, and they're not going to get relevant results. If it's not complex enough, then they're going to be overwhelmed like everyone else is with searching the internet, and they're going to have too many retrievals unless they use, Google that has a search within search results. I constantly have to remind them to do this, like I said before. And think broad, even broader than my practical approach. My approach to the whole electronic legal research course is that, worst case scenario, you have the worst, most restrictive pricing plan. So you have to pay attention to everything you do. That's kind of how I teach this. So they have a value associated with the functions that they perform for me. And even so, my strategy there is, so start broad and then do focus or locate, where you can get just as picky as you want to get in your search. Well, it's even broader than that usually with these internet websites because they're just not as robust as the Westlaw and Lexis search engines. You could always tweak or narrow your query on the free sites if you just had too many to handle. They actually do tend to do well on my my free website, legal website questions, whether it's the test or further along in the semester when they're kind of getting the hang of how to do the general legal web searching. I do tend to make those a little bit easier. You really don't have much choice sometimes because of the search engines. They tend to do well to some degree. It's kind of an ironic situation. To some degree, they catch on to the internet searching because for a lot of them, they've grown up doing that. But then again, the other side of it is the not knowing the search engine's qualities. So it's kind of a competing interest there. But they tend to get it towards the end and do just fine with it. I really, when you're teaching any sort of cost-effective class, and with, Westlaw and Lexis, it does cost a little bit. I mean, I just can't see not using these free sites. It's kind of like using the books for certain things, like to start secondary research or something. If your firm has the books, you need to use them. If you have access to the web, why don't you just, go to some of these free sites and use them, and then whatever you can't do for free or easily, then, for free, then go online in Westlaw and Lexis and do what you have to. I think it's certainly at least a great compliment to someone's kind of research regimen to use these free sites. And especially if you're in a position where you can't afford the Westlaw or Lexis subscriptions. Questions for me before I turn it over to Bill? Yes?
When you have an actual issue that you're researching and they're doing that on free sites, don't you find that they're getting frustrated, or isn't there a quality, not a trust issue, but a quality issue that might, for cost-saving purposes, might they actually be saving money and time by just going right to Lexis?
Well, it depends what it is. Like I say, I kind of direct them a lot, and so I don't ask them basically to do secondary research, a lot of the secondary research for free. And so what I ask them might be, go to this site and find a case dealing with this issue, and then answering a question, And so it's pretty specific, and they don't have a problem with that. Where I deviate and maybe give them a fact pattern that they have to analyze and figure out what it is they need to search for, that I pretty much confine to Westlaw and Lexis. And so I think the internet has its place. It's not a cure-all, but certainly you do have to watch it, or they're going to be in over their head. They're going to get frustrated. They're not going to get anything, and they would have wasted time. At least not money, though. But to some degree, you could say they could do the same thing on Westlaw and Lexis, though. They have an issue. They're just spinning their wheels. They're wasting time on Westlaw and Lexis, too. Yes?
Have you tried to find out what your graduates are using now after graduation? Are they using the free websites, using the paid sites?
Not my graduates themselves. I changed jobs a couple years ago, and I just started teaching again this class in the spring. I might make those contacts, but where I go to tweak what I do are the librarians and the firms that are in charge of the research, and I interviewed some of them extensively before I reconfigured my course in the spring, and I always have those contacts, which is the good thing, and I can go back to them. Yeah, they stay. A lot of them stay in the area, the Southern California area. Yeah. And the ones that I've been asking were specifically from LA, the LA area firms. So it may or may not apply down in San Diego, which is a couple hours south. But then I'm not sure a lot of them go down there. I guess what I'm saying is there could actually be more coordination in that area, but we do have. I feel really good about asking the librarians who do the training, who see the bills, who know, give me these pointers about, they really need to be using this when it's available and stuff like that. Yes?
The Cornell site, to me, is like a symbol of a reliable, authoritative secondary source that's using the web to also include all the links to the primary
That's true.
sources.
Yeah.
And I'm finding increasingly secondary materials that way created by good, reliable, authoritative sources, whether it be Cornell or other universities or librarians publishing on the web. Are you still reluctant to introduce people to that sort of secondary material that sure it's not?
That's fine. That's really good.
Yeah, but it's a new way of creating secondary sources.
Those sites are really good for quickly educating a student with the very basic, the basic steps of research and giving them the primary law. So those are great. But it's just, you don't find, when I say that there's really not much secondary source, I'm really talking about the AMJURs, the CJS, the practice guides. They're just not there for free. So if you were referring back to what I said earlier about, the secondary resources, that's what I was getting at. But those are really, beneficial sites. The Hyros Gamos is the same way. hg.org. It's just amazing what the amount of information that's there. Yes.
I'm about to start writing back curriculum after not having done that for a number of years. And it dawned on me, reference does, I know how to deal with these connections and other cell phones, but I didn't have to deal with the issue of official. And I'm told, and I learned in the summer catching up, and I learned that some states have actually said that the official version of some of the statutes or the regs, or in the case of inmates, is the online version from their state website. Do you explain that to the students, that some jurisdictions, the online version is the official?
I would say no, and I'll tell you why. Because I focus on federal and California. I just don't have enough time to get into many states at all. Every once in a while, I might go to New York or something like that. But so it would never come into play if those are state codes that you're talking about. But you've been around. If you're gone for any length of time, boy, do things change. Even just the Westlaw and Lexis interfaces change. About every 6 months. I thought there was another question right over here somewhere. Yes.
Yes. Are you incorporating Lowest Law or Versus Law?
We use Lowest Law, and it's kind of later on in the semester. I think it's my last class, actually.
I don't know whether you emphasize or not some of the unique sources that are free. What I've seen is there are a lot of city ordinances, particularly in Michigan, county ordinances as well, that are not available on Westlaw and Lexis. A lot of students should know that.
Yeah.
Many of the clients have been coming to see them with problems that involve the ordinances.
Yeah, and if they don't have it in their library,
Well,
and thinking it's online.
What I found is that those ordinances are widely distributed to libraries, particularly if it's, how
Yeah.
the town hall, but they often may have one there.
Yeah, there are a couple of sites. Of course, it's been a little while since I've looked at them. There used to be one in Seattle.
The Seattle Public Library.
Seattle Public Library, and there's another one that has a lot of stuff too. Yeah, you're right. MCC, and also a lot of these official city websites have codes on it now. I find there's a lot more than used to be on there. Definitely, and we're not talking just LA, San Diego, large cities like that. We're talking, 50,000, 40,000, 30,000. A lot of those are on there.
And sometimes there's stuff out there that they can't really publicize because the Lexis Publishing or whatever doesn't want you to know that they're available for free. But when it comes to municipal codes, the first place I turn to is the free web, for instance, rather than Lexis or West.
Nothing much on Westlaw and Lexis in that regard.
And I'm going to mention Lexis. In answer to another question, even before I start, concerning the idea of cost, it's ironic, but but sometimes even though using Lexis or West is way more cost efficient than doing it any other way, a client will still balk at the bill when they see that online research charge at the bottom. Shepherdizing, for instance, before the brief goes out the door. If you have 50 cases in there and you put down, what did it cost, $250 to send that through Keysight or Shepherds, the client is going to say, I don't want to pay for this. And I guess the reason is they're already paying you hourly to do your job. They don't want to pay you for the tools you use because you don't pay the plumber for the wrench that he or she uses to fix your sink, right? But if you have in there that an associate spends 7 hours at $180 an hour, checking the currency of the cases, the clients are okay with that. They feel like they've gotten value. That's irony. Well, there's a lot of irony in my presentation. I apologize for wearing a bow tie after this morning's plenary. My response is that Mr. DeGuide is probably jealous because he doesn't know how to tie one. My name is Bill Jack. I'm from William Mitchell College of Law in St. Paul. I'm going to talk about internet legal research, how we teach it when there's already way too much to teach, and how we do it at William Mitchell. Now, this is a picture of William Mitchell in the winter, if you believe that. This is a picture of William Mitchell in the winter. No, but don't believe that either, because actually Raleigh-Durham had way more snow last winter than we did. Yes, you did. We had hardly any. Okay, I want to give you a little context, first of all. William Mitchell College of Law is approximately, a little bit over 1,000 students. 46% of those students are part-time. The college has 35 full-time faculty, 160 adjunct faculty, which I think points a lot towards its orientation, which is towards, practice-oriented, skills-oriented. And in fact, it's known for being a practical, skills-oriented teaching institution. So you can see where the use of a low-cost or even quote-unquote free legal resource is going to figure prominently in the scheme of things. And there's a picture, a spring picture of William Mitchell College of Law. So what's the challenge? What are we talking about here? Okay, we have to teach nowadays both subject matter and a whole range of tools. I think things were easier in my day when I went to law school because you just studied contracts and you studied tax and you studied criminal procedure. Well, today you still study those topics, but you also have to arrange your studies or your classes by tool as well as by topic, right? So the tools, we have Westlaw, we have Lexis, students have to know that. We have the books, and we have the web. And what about the web as a tool? It can be the worst tool at times. Sometimes it's not the easiest to use. I think the California Administrative Site. Did anybody wax nostalgic when Patrick put that up there? That's Folio. Remember, isn't it? It's web-based Folio that takes me back to about 1982, I think, pre-Windows. I mean, they've adapted it to the web, but there's still a lot of Folio in there. You can take the web, never mind, but you get the idea. Reliability, accuracy, comprehensiveness, and authority. Those are all giant, overwhelming warning flags when you're on the web. How do we do it at Mitchell? Well, we decided to create our own table of links to point students towards those sites that we've evaluated, that we've vetted for being reliable, accurate, comprehensive, and up-to-date, still plastering them all over with all the warnings about checking for currency. We use this table of links as a teaching tool. The college uses it as a marketing tool. We librarians use it as a reference desk tool, and we also use it as a virtual reference desk tool, email or whatever. And we started out, when I got there 2 years ago, they had a long scrolling list of frames. I think many colleges started with something like this for internet legal resources, where you notice from the elevator button there that, if you print this thing out, it's going to be about 18 pages. We should have more links because not all the best ones are there. And don't you dare annotate anything because every line just expands much more, a page that's already expanding too much. So we got rid of that and we created a grid of static web pages that sometimes went 4 or 5 pages deep. And had individual links, which we had to put in several places because a banking attorney or specialist says, I want to see this IRS website under, administrative regulatory stuff for bankers. And of course, the tax person says, no, I want it under tax. And someone else says, no, I want it under general federal regulatory. So we end up putting the same link sometimes in many different places to appease the users and to minimize the frustration of users who drill down one way and don't find it and then have to go back up and start drilling down somewhere else. This is what our grid looked like. And that was like the lower half of the page. And then the second page, like if you clicked on courts and cases, you would get yet another intermediate page where we divided it up by federal and Minnesota and other states. And then we also had court rules and jury instructions and things like that. Finally, the data page or the hard page, this is what it looked like. We'd include the name of the link, the URL, we'd have it on the page. Why? Because so when you print it out, it's still valuable. Have you ever printed something off from the web saying, oh, these are just great links, but then you realize that they're embedded links, and so your handout is absolutely useless. It's just a bunch of underlined text and not helpful at all. And then an annotation, generally telling people why they would want to go there or what's there. Then we created dynamic web pages, and we did it using a cheap old $25 database program. I think it's $24.95 now, Michael. Is it still $17? Well, you got a bargain then, okay. We run this thing off a comma-delimited database. It's called PowerMesh. Michael Sampson talked about it this morning in his session. That's the link where it's available. I will have my PowerPoint available too through CALI, so you can get all these links and everything off of there. And the fields that we use in this database are obviously the title of the site, the URL, our little description or annotation, and then they have a keywords box, which we use to tag the fields. Okay, this one, we want this one to appear on the page that includes court rules, and we also want it to appear on the page that includes Minnesota litigation resources. So I would put those keywords in that field. Okay, this is what it looks like now. This is like the front page, the opening page or the entry page for the dynamic website. And when you get down there, when you click on any of those links, what you've done is you've actually performed a search. You could read the URL here. You can see that it's actually an active server page, and there's a search. It says, give me every link out of this database that has what the keyword 1 of federal and the keyword 2 of administrative. And our genius techie people arrange it so that's also the title of the page. And then we have all the links right there. So it works real slick and neat for us. We only have to worry about that particular link one time. From where do we get the links? Well, we get it from paper. Still, paper's still a very good source sometimes. You know, legal information alert, legal management, there are all kinds of things that come around. We get it from colleagues. We get it from our own research. We get it from suggestions from users. We also get them from news groups. I belong to Law Lib, and I get 8,000 messages a day, but 3 of them are vital. So it's worth drifting through all the other people exchanging tickets for the West banquet at AALL. Okay, we annotate those links and we put them into the PowerMesh database and we tag them so they'll show up where they tag. And then when we were doing the static pages, we had to export the subfiles then. And we use Microsoft Front Page to put it all together. I'll show you that by how we inserted the subfiles. This is a great page, a great site if you're in Minnesota. No other state has anything like this. It's sort of an egalitarian lawyer who does it all on his own without pay. It's called Law Moose. It has things like a searchable full-text database of all Minnesota legal periodicals for free, has a lot of secondary legal material, has judges' biographies and things like that. He's collected press releases. So it's one good reason for living in Minnesota besides the low humidity. Now, what I did is I'm using PowerMesh, so I right-clicked it, and here it just said Add PowerMesh. So this little box pops up. I like the title, so I'll keep it. There's the URL. The description and notes, the annotation I add there, and here are the many keywords that I applied to it that will pop up in various databases and various database situations. Then, to show you how it works, I do a search now. I use these very odd non-English word things so I could keep my database clean and not get false hits. So I said, give me all links that are labeled case law min, obviously Minnesota case law, right? And those are the links. So then I would export those in a format known as formatted for printing, and I would then copy and paste it into a blank front page, and that's what it looked like. And then lucky for us, our techie people gave us cascading style sheets, so what we did ugly like that, the style sheet takes over and it looks like that. Okay, those are the dynamic pages. The advantage is we only have to enter or worry about a link once. We can check it right in PowerMesh to find out if it's still a good link. We can control the keywords so we can determine how many places that link is going to show up. And I showed you the way the keywords also work as page titles, so it really minimizes the amount of work and attention that work. And that's what the final page looks like now in very much like it did in static, except I don't have to sit there and copy and paste all day, so it's very nice. Okay. Now, some of the features of this research grid. This is good particularly for teaching, okay? I have learned that you don't want to scroll when you're teaching. Students just get headaches from it, and they'll stop looking at you and looking at the screen. So we try to keep everything tight and on one page so you don't have to scroll down. The pages are adjustable for font size. They're still doing them in pixels, and I don't like that. I would like to have more control over the size of the text, depending upon which size this screen is right now as I'm teaching to this group. You know, that would have a lot to do. I would have changed, selected different fonts had I known the exact layout of the room, right? I like the fact that cascading style sheets take care of all the formatting, so I don't have to worry about that. We also add the URL to every page that's created for that page, so that, again, you can hand that to someone, and if they want the 20 links on that page, they don't have to type them in manually. They can go back to our website. What they're really doing is recreating the search, and they get that page again, and then they can click on the links, and they don't have to type them in, especially if they type like I do. And then so it serves as well as a printout and a handout. I put a little hint on the bottom. When I teach, I have gone back to using Opera, which I hadn't used in about 10 years. Are you familiar with it? It's the almost free browser. Michael, how much does that cost? I think it's $29. I don't know how much, but it's well worth it. You can hit the plus and the minus key on Opera, and the entire web page you're looking at, graphics included, will expand or shrink, and it can be very helpful when you're sitting in front of a large classroom and you know that the people in row 2 cannot see what you're doing. Whom do we teach? Okay. Well, the question obviously to ask is who needs to know? All right? Why do they need to know, and when do they need to know? And I posit that all three of those questions are vital. Okay, who needs to know? All students need to know. They don't know it yet, most of them, but they do need to know. Why do they need to know? Okay? Because the web is a great source for primary legal materials, no doubt about it. I have hesitations about recommending it for secondary research, although you can find more and more out there, and Cornell is at the forefront with their annotated American legal ethics library, for instance, and things like that. Westlaw and Lexis student passwords don't last forever, as they find out right after they graduate from law school. And once they get into the law firms, and I come from a law firm environment, I'm only a year and a half out of law firms, their fellow attorneys and their clients are using the web. You don't want to be caught using Lexis or West when you could have gotten it off the web for free. When do they need to know? That's segueing right into my next question. Okay. First semester, I think, is really too early. They have too much to learn. There's so much context, so much new content. We do teach our students, by the way, Lexis and West in the first semester rather than the second semester. They need to get the content in order, the organization, you know, the analysis. They need to get the paradigms or the general outline, if you will, and they need authority too. You know, let them worry about lack of authority later. And the web doesn't do any of that for them. And they need to learn Lexis and Westlaw. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they will be using those tools. More and more law firms are tossing their books and going over to find and print because it's cheaper to have them in digital than it is to keep the space in the law firm that houses all the books. It's a fact of life. So even in a firm that eschews online legal research, they still will be using Westlaw and Lexis. Second semester is a great time to teach them. So what we do is we librarians present topics in our first year legal research and writing program. It's called WRAP. And we go in there and we pick out things that are related to the student's particular topic. We cheat a little bit. We make sure that our job is to find primary legal materials and not secondary legal materials. Court rules, we found out, work very well because there's one great site. It's the Law Librarians Research Exchange, LLRX, Court Rules Grid. You go there. If it's on the web, they have it for you. It's great. And that's kind of a look of how we do it. We have three different environments. We have computer labs, where all the students are sitting at a desktop computer. Of course, that's limited. We have one of 30 and two of about 20, I believe are the right numbers. And then we also have many wired classrooms, and this is one of them. Some of the students are opt into these wired or wireless sections. So we teach them, and then we also teach students, and that's the worst, is where you do the pony show and the students are sitting there like you are, well, most of you are, with no computer. That's the biggest challenge to teach when the students are not engaged, are not following along with you. Later in law school is a good time to teach web resources. And we guest lecture. We go into specific courses and we'll do it on specific topics. I do one like on European Union resources. I defy you to get around the European Union site and find what you're looking for without years of suffering as I have had, or else with some training. Tax resources. There's a lot out there on the web in terms of private letter rulings and tax memoranda and general chief counsel memoranda and field service advisories and things like that. The IRS has to put it out there. They don't want to, so they hide all of it, right? But you have to teach students how to find it. The same thing with the intellectual property databases. They need that stuff. And this is how it would look in one of the classrooms. Okay. Skills courses are good. Besides teaching in the beginning writing course, those students who have spent the summer in a law firm come back and now they want to know about the web. They were at the law firm. They got a $10K off Lexus. They paid $300, in the printing cost to print it out on the firm's printer while the attorney was waiting for a retainer letter to go out to a client, right? This 10K without end is printing out. Now they get it. Now they know they have to know the web, okay? And is there more than Google? Well, yes, there is. So we teach a J-term, which is our interterm, winter inter-semester course and a summer skills class. Librarians teach it. It's 1 credit, and it's pass-fail. And it sells out every time. It's extremely popular. Okay. We use a moderate low-tech approach because I'm not a very high-tech person. We do it in the computer labs. I start out with a talking head presentation, which is what I'm doing now, a talking bald head presentation, I guess we could call it. Then I break them up into in-class group projects where I assign them, you do California, you do Idaho, you do Wisconsin, and then we like to talk about the results. Well, California has a great statute site, but we don't like their regulatory site, et cetera, et cetera. North Dakota, by the way, is the best. I'm surprised. Yeah, I'd never moved there, but I'm tempted to just because of their great. They have no law there, or they have nothing else to do. We have quizzes emailed to the students during class, right at the point of the quiz taking, and then they fill it out and they copy and paste. We make sure they all know how to copy and paste, and sometimes there's a big disparity between the abilities of the students, and you can't make assumptions about age. Sometimes the older students are more web savvy than some of the younger ones. So we email them the quizzes and they email them back to the instructors. That gives us the ability to respond to each and every one of them individually if it looks like there's a problem or something worthy of discussion. They have out-of-class reading assignments, which we may or may not quiz them on. I don't assign a textbook. I've never found a good one. If anyone knows of one that isn't out of date the moment it comes, the law of the super searchers and everything else, it just haven't found one that really seems to justify the inclusion. In conclusion, for us, it works. I'd like to see the college put more emphasis on internet, on the free web, because I think it sort of fits in with the college's mission. It steers students towards the web, which is where they're going to be doing a lot of their research. It teaches them how to search the whole web seriously, not just the legal web, right? And it helps them see what's good about the web, when it's a waste of time, and indeed it can be a great big waste of time, and where to go when they don't know where to go. The sites that Patrick pointed out, my favorite happens to be the last one you mentioned, but Cornell's Legal Information Institute. But there are 5, 6, 7 sites where if it's legal and you don't know where to go, they'll probably help you get there. And so critical for the entire law school education, I think, is it helps them learn how to evaluate information. And I've got some great sites that I poke them to, where they really have to become critical and they realize, oh, wait, yeah, just because it's a .org, that doesn't mean they're unbiased or giving you the whole picture, right? So, in conclusion, and this is my last point, I had not wanted nor expected anyone to talk about the final issue, which I don't want to discuss, and that's those other low-cost web-based resources that the lady already asked about. Law, Quick Law, National Library, the regional programs like Montana has one called Mont Law, New York Bar has one. These are all things that people need to be trained on, and I guess they are web-based, although they're not free. And they're also practice area-based now. If you're doing tax, you darn well better learn RIA's checkpoint, and maybe you better know CCH's tax program too. And there's an argument going on, and I don't know which side to take. One side of the argument says that we people in law school have to teach students how to use all of these things. I kind of agree with that, but yet I agree with the counter-argument, which is like an attorney from a large law firm in Minneapolis told me, he says, you know, we don't care what tools they know or don't know. We can always teach them the tools if they know or understand the law and how the law works. So the web, it's there. It's the elephant in the room. We can't ignore it. Sometimes it's the best tool, and I think it's our job to not only teach students when it's the best tool, but to teach them how to use it effectively. And I believe that's my last slide, and that's all I have to say. Thank you. Questions? Each of us will take questions. Yes. Oh, yes, sorry.
Would you clarify, when do you do this? When? At what time during the semester?
Okay, second semester we teach the first-year students in legal research and writing. We go into other practice courses, you know, torts, contracts, international law, whenever we're invited, whenever the professor wants. And then we teach the skills courses for anyone, open, pass, fail. Okay.
Sorry for interrupting. He has a quick announcement here.
Before everybody leaves, there's just one set of buses leaving at 6 o'clock from your hotels at the law school. There's not a 6:30 bus. So just be aware of that.
Any other questions?
Anything else? Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. No. Should I set